Basically what we have right now in our code base is our first stage guidance for ascent all the way to second stage separation, and from there first stage is done. It's expendable at the moment, but we also have immediately we took over second stage guidance, and we actually do have a pseudo sort of step-by-step control system that allows us to get into some sort of orbit. It's not our targeted orbit, which is a little bit unfortunate. So yeah, we really got to work on improving our code base. What I want to do today is basically pick up where we left off with our DCX style of vehicle. DCX was a launch vehicle concept back in the 1990s. It was actually a test article, experimental, hence the X. And it was supposed to be an SSTO, but basically it was supposed to be a flyback booster. It was supposed to fly through the air, somewhat like Starship even, kind of going belly first through the atmosphere. Pretty interesting. And so we've kind of done the same exact concept in KSP that we're using as a test article to basically fly everything into orbit, and to also return things back from orbit, or to return the launch vehicle from orbit. There's a lot of stuff that we can certainly do, and yeah, we're gonna check it out in KSP. You know, speaking of reusability, that was one of my questions for the KSP2 AMA coming soon. Because yeah, you're right. I hope with this update they fix a lot. The 22nd of this month. Oh, that's wild. Okay, I was thinking it was September. Okay. Yeah, so 22nd of this month, so next week. Awesome, actually. Yeah, I'm really hoping that they fix docking ports and they fix the spaghettification of your launch vehicle. That's what I'm hopeful of. Spaghettification, which is where, you know, at random times, for whatever reason, especially during docking and undocking of things and hitting action groups, your vehicle will just start to fall apart. Yep, we've had that issue repeatedly, so I hope they fix that. Between point 1.3 and this is pretty fast. I don't remember when 0.3 came out, but yeah, fair enough. I definitely think they're iterating at a good pace. I like it. We have like an update every what, 3-4 months, three months. I'm happy with that. You mean like legs just falling off? Exactly, yes. Or like when we tried to make our Kraken tech style of landing legs, and we have action grouped multiple docking ports to undock with an action group. Only one will undock, and if you keep hitting the same action group, those pieces that are attached to that docking port just fall off. Yeah, that I hope is fixed. Alrighty then, so this is our test vehicle here. Let's go ahead and get it out on the pad, and we'll see just where everything is kind of left off here for the moment. So we got to get our 2 pad construction crew here, and we'll go ahead and launch it. Yes, we're ready. Or when the moon or other celestial solid body turns into quicksand. I don't think I've encountered that one, thankfully. I also haven't done any prolonged missions on the surface of a celestial body. Like, mainly we just land and maybe I'll reload or something like that, but I don't stay for multiple reloads, and I don't stay on the surface for very long yet. Y'all ready to see an empty ML move to 39 B tonight? Move expected to start at 5 a.m. Eastern. Nice. Yo, what's up, Predominant? How are you? Hope you're doing well. An empty ML move to 39B tonight. Why? Are they doing pad checks? $20 to $30 is like a 30% increase in pedestrian deaths. Yeah, that is crazy. Ah! Oh God! Whoa! Nelly! Slow down. Slow your roll. There we go. Okay. It's fine, chat. Don't worry about it. Just, you know, cantilever beaming this launch vehicle around. This should be fine, right, chat? Just side to side. Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Stress on the vehicle is not a thing in KSP, so don't gotta worry about it. Speaking of speeding, yeah, wow. Yep, and in a Hemet, no less. Like, that is that's really bad. That is really bad. All right, we have our DCX out here. Let's go ahead and there we go. Lock it out and bring it down. Cool. Sunday I couldn't have watched because I was in too much pain. Yeah, fair enough. I'm sorry to hear that, man. Sorry to hear that. Let alone with a rocket as a cargo. Yeah, you know, don't worry about it. It's fine. Ah, escape basket test. Interesting. Okay. Neat. All right, looking good so far. Oh dear. Internet, why? Internets, come back. Stabilize. Okay. That's weird. Haven't had really any issues with interwebs, knock on wood, until then, but okay. Yeah, we're good. All right, looking good there. We have, okay, the launch vehicle's on the ground. It's taken some of its weight. We can drop this a little bit. Perfect. At the same time, we can undock. And away we go, chat. Those are puff engines? No, yeah. They're what Thomas said. They're thuds. Thuds are like the most overpowered engine in the game. Changed my mind. Okay, maybe vectors are, technically speaking, but thuds are a pretty close second in my opinion. Thuds are pretty gross in terms of the power for the size they output. Yeah, so we're just gonna get these Kerbals in an arbitrary safe place, as one does. Yeah, we're just gonna get it like behind this hill here. Should be fine, right? They're in a tank, basically, so I'm not really worried about them. But this, you know, covers most of the vehicle, I suppose. Doesn't really do anything to cover them. They perfectly peek out over the edge, but hey, something is something, right, chat? All right, chat. Let's go ahead and see what we can do. Right now, this is empty. Luckily, we have Kerbal construction mod enabled, so we can just go right here and fill us up. Yeah, if not the crew, exactly. Crew is expendable, Kappa. There we go. We are now full of fuel. All right, so let's go over the guidance, shall we? The guidance, navigation, and control. The avionics of the rocket. This is where we have everything for this vehicle currently in a frozen state. So pretty much we have a mission parameters that we set. It defines some of the things that we use for mainly orbital class launch vehicles, not so much for DCX, which is just designed to go up and come back down, similar to Blue Origin's new Shepherd vehicle. But we do have a few things in here like target inclination, which I'll actually set to 0 because we've updated the azimuth calculation to account for 0 now. Target roll, altimeter bias is actually wrong because altimeter bias is 71, not 95, but go figure, right? Go figure, chat. We don't have a gravity turn because we're not going orbital. We don't really care about max Q, and we're not going to be maxing out on our Gs anytime soon with this vehicle. So pretty much this is just to as a placeholder. We also set up our overall launch vehicle classification with a few other things needed for the rest of the code, again typically for an orbital class launch vehicle. And then we finally get our target heading by calculating our desired azimuth. So this function here essentially takes in our desired inclination and our reference frame and transforms that inclination, right, which is with respect to the equator moving up, to an actual heading that we can use, right, because heading is between 0 and 360, which is not what inclination is, which starts at 0 at 90. So have to do a little bit of a transformation to calculate our actual heading for launch. And then we go from there. We activate our engines, we engage our autopilot, and we start with a very, very small pitch over maneuver, and we're good to go. We raise our landing gear, and this is where we set up our target altitude. And this is the first thing I want to change, chat. This is the first thing I want to change, which is a estimation of our apoapsis. You could say that you can just use the apoapsis that the game gives you, but it doesn't account for things like drag. Mainly that. It doesn't account for drag, right? So whatever apoapsis that you achieve, you're always going to have a slightly lower apoapsis depending on how low in the atmosphere you start coasting. So this is something that I want to fix first. And I think I'm going to start with that with an integrator and literally integrate the equations of motion to actually propagate forwards through a certain amount of time that we call a horizon. And from there, we can hopefully get basically cut our engines when our estimated height is actually at the height that we desire, which in this case is 70,000 meters. So from there, we set up our controller for our throttle estimation. And then we enter different control modes. The first one is a hover at target altitude. So we coast all the way up to apoapsis, and the DCX vehicle currently sits there for a total of 20 seconds. And then after 20 seconds, it will then belly flop. It will rotate over, pitch 0 degrees across the horizon, very much like Starship, and start descending back into the atmosphere. From there, it's very much hands-free until it gets to around 4,000 meters, at which point it pitches over 90 degrees and starts calculating for its hover slam maneuver. And that's pretty much it. Once it's in its hover slam maneuver, once it basically achieves its desired stopping point, it will then transfer over into a constant descent rate at -5 meters per second, so a constant rate of descent. Until it touches the ground, and then it's done. And then we plot our states that we care about, and then there we go. All of the things. You would love a tutorial on this? Yeah, we can dive into anything at any point. Let me know. The biggest thing to keep in mind is I am using a PID. Basically, we created this was like the first thing I did, was create a PID library. So this is one that I made, and I modeled it off of a repository, I think an Arduino repository. There's a certain Arduino, is it Arduino or Raspberry Pi, something used for autonomous systems that has like a PID class in it. Basically just copied some of the overall architecture that they have and kind of made it my own with certain things like a rate limiter, clamping the min and max output, deadbands, things like that. So we just kind of updated it over time. But yeah, we use PIDs for just about everything, which is good. What method did you use to tune the control loops, or was it trial and error? We used trial and error. I kind of used the NZ method. What is NZ? I am so nah. I can never remember their names. What is it called? Ziegler-Nichols. The Ziegler-Nichols method, which kind of has like a starting point on like best estimates for magnitudes between the proportional integral and derivative, but everything else has been kind of trial and error. Essentially, you do a couple of test flights, you basically zero out your integral and your derivative, you increase your proportional until you start getting overshoots and oscillations, and then you increase your derivative until you dampen out those oscillations, and then if you have a steady state error, you start slowly increasing your integral. That's kind of the tuning strategy. Yeah, Nichols-Ziegler method indeed, or Ziegler-Nichols method, yeah. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and launch this and see how it does currently. So we're going to start off, I think, with a target altitude of 30,000 meters. So basically that means that we are going to coast until our targeted altitude or actual altitude or apoapsis is essentially hitting a target altitude of 30,000 meters, 30 kilometers, at which point we'll coast up to that altitude and go from there. So let's see what happens, chat. So here we go. Wait for it to connect. It should be running. There it goes. Okay. One thing I want to change off the bat is change this to 3. Perfect. And there we go. Cool. Dude, that's awesome, Trainman. Nice. Yep, that's pretty good. All right, so as you can see, we are basically taking off with a very, very slight pitch and heading. That is non-zero or 90. So yeah, we're basically just starting a little bit tipped over, almost like an initial pitch over maneuver for a gravity turn. But we're mainly doing this to account for Kerbin's rotation under us. Because remember, this has no GNC, no guidance, navigation, or control for coming back to the landing or launch site. So that's something I want to add. If we can add it today, great. If not, we'll work on that over time. But let's see where we go. So right now we're at 12,000 meters apoapsis, and we should go all the way up until around 30 kilometers. Hopefully a little bit over 30 kilometers, right? Because we have to account for the drag and everything that's on the vehicle once we start coasting. Darn planet rotation, I know, right? Son of a gun. All right, so there's 31 kilometers. So yeah, not bad. Not too shabby. Our targeted was 30,000. So not a problem. And we're just coasting. And so we can also watch here as well the outputs of the control system. All right, so we've passed the 30 kilometer altitude goal, and we're still coasting up a little bit more. We've entered state machine 1, which is basically control mode number 1, which is an altitude hold maneuver. So once we basically hit 0 vertical velocity, we want to basically cover that. So there we go, not bad. And now we're doing our belly flop maneuver. So here we're pitching over to a 5-degree pitch angle, so we're slightly pitched up. This is mainly because, again, we don't have any GNC to aim us back to the actual desired landing site. So I pitched the vehicle up a little bit to hopefully nullify some of our forward motion, because this thing will create lift, right? We actually do have control surfaces for helping us maneuver in the atmosphere. This does generate body lift, as we'll start to see once we get into the atmosphere. So yeah, we want to make sure that we don't go out into the ocean. So to kind of combat that a little bit, I started to pitch up a little bit, and we'll see how it does. So activate the nose RCS here. Still looking good, but you can see that we are you know what I should do? I should actually get our physics out, aero GUI data. We can check, I think, our horizontal velocity here. Can we? Terminal, static. Oh, I definitely thought you could see your horizontal velocity. You can see your climb rate, but not horizontal unless I'm looking at it wrong. All right, so it's trying to keep that 5-degree pitch, basically keeping us locating or looking right at the horizon here. We're looking good though. And then once we get below 4,000 meters, we should pitch over to vertical and start calculating our hover slam. There we go. And calculating our hover slam maneuver. So we're still coasting. Side slip, yeah, getting some side slip. There we go, hover slam maneuver has started. We could even tune the hover slam a little bit. I'm a little bit conservative, basically doing a calculation to make sure we don't use 100% throttle to give us some room for error, right? So you can see it started off at around 75% throttle and is now slowly going up to 100. And then it hits its desired point. And then we have touchdown. Not bad, right? But like I said, a couple things can definitely be improved. One, the landing location, chat. The landing location can be improved, hopefully. And then, of course, we have our estimation for our altitude. Just general improvements all around, I'm pretty sure. Is this automatically controlled? Yep, that entire thing automatically controlled. Didn't Blue work on something like DCX? I think that was called, so you're talking about New Shepard, right? Yeah. That's essentially what I suppose you can say that we're doing. New Shepard launch. Ah, yes, full flight. Look at this. Look at this, chat. Here you go. This is essentially what we're making, right? Wait, this isn't the failure, is it? No, it's not.
8, 7.
Wait, is it? No, it's not good.
4. Command engine start. 2, 1.
We're actually using kRPC. It's a mod called kRPC, Kerbal Remote Procedural Call. Whee! Oh, new Goddard with something? That's interesting. I'm not familiar with that then. That's cool.
On the left-hand side of your screen, you can see that we are gaining speed as New Shepard gains altitude.
All right, cap failure. Sounds good.
Feet above median sea level, and that's
so yeah, this thing is designed to carry up crew, you know, astronauts for suborbital flights, payloads for zero-G flights. It basically goes all the way up to an apoapsis of around 100 kilometers, like 105, 110 kilometers. And then the capsule will separate and the booster comes back and lands on a designated landing zone. What's up, Bettle? How are you doing, my friend? Hope you're doing well.
Main engine cut off with the vehicle traveling at more than 2,000 miles
per
hour and
yeah, there you go.
200,000 feet of altitude. Our next milestone will be separation.
Yeah, something like that, Nova.
For zero G.
So the capsule separated. It was here. This is actually a camera pointing up through where the capsule would be in basically the interface ring. The New Shepard vehicle is really cool. It actually has an aerodynamic ring at the very top that actually is the interface for the capsule, but then it also allows airflow to go through as well when the capsule's gone and makes it really, really aerodynamically stable coming back down. Because as the rocket comes down engine tail first, you basically essentially have what do they call that? Like an elliptical wing on the very top of this vehicle, which is actually really cool to see. It has been a minute. How are you doing? Your favorite booster is quite good. It's quite good. So here we see both the capsule and the vehicle, the launch vehicle, starting to come back down. There's a look at the aerodynamic ring that I was talking about right there. See if we can get it in frame. There we go. So this entire system, you know, let alone the deployable fins at the top, the entire circular interstage, if you will, where the capsule actually attaches to, allows airflow to go through here, much like a flap on an airplane, and creates a really, really good, stable vehicle going back down through the atmosphere. But anyways, it's now coming basically straight back down from where it launched from. Not quite, because it doesn't actually launch on the launch. It doesn't land on the launch pad. Pretty soon you'll see drag brakes deploy up here as well. There they go. Really slows down the vehicle. And soon enough,
stability with the center of
listen for the sonic booms, chat.
Inverted relationships now. Great close-up.
There are sonic booms. Engine ignition.
There it is. Engine ignition. Engine relay coming in for a landing.
Whee! And you see, so New Shepard, unlike Falcon 9, is small enough and light enough to where it can actually throttle down and hover. You know, the Falcon 9 Merlin 1Ds cannot throttle down enough in order to enter a hover with its engine because it's so powerful, and the booster, when it's empty of fuel, is so light in comparison. But New Shepard is actually able to hover and basically enter what's called a gate, if you will. It achieves this desired point above the surface, and then however far it is off of the launch or landing zone, it can then translate and then descend at a constant rate of descent. That's essentially exactly what we have here. The only thing that we're missing is the guidance back to the landing pad. That's what we got to do. I use flags as LZ indicators. 3 flags with matching names are used for calculating the center point, and the craft can steer itself towards the point. You could do something similar. Interesting, nice. I was actually thinking about just having the targeted latitude, longitude be where the vehicle is originally. That's kind of what I was thinking. Super simple way to do it. Yours definitely sounds more robust. Much more robust. All right, so let's go ahead and do we need to revert? We don't actually have to revert, chat. You know what? First off, let's time warp through the nighttime, or just all the way to the next nighttime. That works too. And let's have our vehicle, our carrier vehicle, go and pick it up. And next time, I'll make sure once I have it on the pad, I will quick save so we don't have to do this every time. Hydrogen is pretty cool. It can be. Sometimes it's also very hot. No seppuku landings then? Nope. Try not to. New Shepard is serving as practice for New Glenn. Yeah, essentially. Yeah, so as I was saying, New Shepard is essentially SpaceX's Hopper. You remember the original Hopper before we even have Star Hopper? The original Hopper, the one that exploded in McGregor? Yeah, that one. That's essentially what New Shepard is for New Glenn, is the hop test article, which is pretty cool. Makes sense. You can figure a lot of stuff out when you go subscale without having to get into the nightmare of full-scale systems, That's one of the things that wouldn't mind doing some theory crafting one day. Theory crafting, if that's really what it's called. Some analysis, some discussion on, it's really interesting to think about, like, had SpaceX started with a smaller version of Starship and Super Heavy, would they be in a better spot than they are today? That's something I've thought about a lot recently. Like, what if they started with a New Glenn sized launch vehicle? They could essentially have like 9 Raptor engines on the first stage and a single Raptor vacuum engine on the upper stage, right? They could test out the Raptors, get reliability up there. They could test guidance on a larger vehicle. They can even make the second stage a mini Starship, so to speak, right? Also be able to test the steel structure and steel manufacturing on a smaller scale. It's interesting to think about, right? Like, had they started on a New Glenn, which is only slightly smaller, if they'd be able to iterate more rapidly than they can right now. I don't know. Maybe not. Just interesting to think about. All right, there we go. Okay, bring that up a little bit. Bring that down a little bit, and whoop, come on. Oh, come on, you're like right there. I think I need to pick it up a little bit more. Wait, really? How are you not doing it? There we go. I was about to say, like, come on. We're like right there. All right, so let's bring this back to 90, and let's bring this up to 90. There we go. Make sure that that's down, hit the brakes, and bring it up. Kind of depends on how much cash they have to burn at that time, right? I suppose, but they raised several $billion on a very short amount of time. What was it? We looked at it on stream a long time ago, but it was a long time ago, and I don't remember now. The numbers are published in certain areas like Crunch and others. Maybe even like Glassdoor that has that sort of information. They've raised billions, I'm pretty sure. Like 4 billion, 7 billion, something like that. Don't quote me on those numbers, but it's definitely a lot. And it would just be interesting to see, like, yeah, they wouldn't have the pad infrastructure, which is right now arguably the most expensive and timely part of their development at the moment, since they've pretty much developed full-size test articles and are in a pretty good spot with Super Heavy and Starship. They just have to launch it more and figure out to close a burn down risk, right? Their launch pad, their launch infrastructure is definitely a major part of their cash flow, I think. It definitely seems pretty complex with everything, right? So yeah, had they gone subscale, they would push that off, but yeah, I don't know. They could essentially build a New Glenn competitor, direct competitor, and replace Falcon 9 with a fully reusable launch vehicle like that. Think Terran R, right? Terran R with their fully reusable upper stage and first stage, they could essentially do something like that on a subscale and test out all the technologies they would need for Starship Super Heavy, while still being directly competitive with most of the upcoming demand for the launch market. The only thing they wouldn't get with that, though, I suppose, is HLS. Where would HLS be? Would they be in a good spot with a New Glenn style of vehicle? I don't know. What about Neutron? Neutron is definitely nowhere near as big, right? Neutron somewhere on the order of like 10 metric tons to low Earth orbit. So it's kind of like... Okay. Can you fix this or not? Well, it looks like we might have to fix a tire here, chat. Who knows? I didn't see a seam here. Oh, you're totally... Yeah, that is not actually on the ground. Good to know for the future, chat. Good to know for the future. Oh, we can repair. 2 repair kits required? What are you smoking, game? Oh, dear. I don't think I have any repair kits on here, do I? Oh, wait, do I? Wait, do I? No. Inventory? Wait, this is... Yes. Yes. Good. I think. Right? Parts. Inventory. Yes. There we go, I think. I think we got it. I was scared for a second. Crew member has insufficient skill level. Really, Bill does? Ah, we gotta change that, chat. This is Bill we're talking about. Come on now. KSP1 is doing some weird things, chat. KSP1's doing some weird things, man. Did that do it? Oh, it did it. Awesome. Did we upset the Kraken? Oh, it's back, actually. I don't know. You know what? Let's just leave. You just had it? That was for creating a Kerbal. Creating a new Kerbal, not for increasing Bill's stuff. Under cheats? Are you serious? Am I just like... Hack gravity. Funding science reputation. Oh. Oh. Ah. Aha. I was looking for like a slider to increase it like star by star, but hey, you know what? Fair enough. Fair enough, chat. My bad. Is there a terrain same here? Okay, no, there's not. That was not the button I meant to press. Just giving us a little boost up the hill. That's all it is, chat. Don't worry about it. Don't even worry about it. Stop it, okay? I'm very observant. Very observant, chat. All right. Get it to 90. And away we go. It's a rocket car, yeah. Easy peasy, don't worry about it. Just giving us a boost up the hill there. That's all it is. Just fired off again. Yep, that's what we're gonna do. We got fuel tanks here. No problem, we can just do it. No problem. Battle. It's actually satisfactory music. It's too round, it needs to be pointy. Incorrect. This is fine. There we go. And it's under its own weight now. No, it's not. waiting for the horns to start. Sorry to disappoint. There we go. No cartoons? Okay, well that's sad, but understandable. That is a ditch. That is a big... Okay. All right. Well, you might just think that we're going to launch it again, but we're not. We're actually going to figure out what we got to do here, chat. So, we want to add a RK4. Actually, you know what? Probably not an RK4. Let's do an Euler based integrator. And we will also add the apoapsis target estimator, which is going to use that integrator. Then we're going to add a line of sight, not loss of signal, line of sight navigation, and then add PID control for roll and yaw. That's what we're going to do, chat. That's what we're going to try to do. Whether it's going to work or not, who knows? But the first thing that we're going to do is the Euler integrator, because that actually should be pretty easy. We're going to do Euler step, and then that's going to take in our current altitude. We'll call that H, our velocity, and our time step. And an Euler integrator, chat, is essentially just a multiply by dt, right? It's basically just a simple multiply by your time step to integrate forward in time. It's very linear, simple equations of motion. So we first need to figure out our h. H is going to be equal to v, which is our velocity, times dt, right? But of course we have to add our h in that as well. And then we also have velocity. Velocity updated is going to be equal to our current velocity plus our acceleration times dt. And of course, we're also going to need our acceleration. That's pretty much all it's going to be. An acceleration. How do I want to do this? Acceleration is essentially just going to be the force of thrust minus the force of drag minus the force of gravity, right? Force equals mass times acceleration divided by the vessel dot mass. Yes. And I think I will put in here vessel as well, just so it always knows which one to use. And now we need to calculate our force of thrust, force of drag, and force of gravity. So FT, I actually need to get out this. Aha! Vessel, is it flight? Let's see. Does it have thrust available? That's control thrust. So it's flight. No, is it just vessel.thrust? It is. It is just vessel.thrust, chat. So that, I guess, makes things somewhat easy. Actually, no. That would do it under constant. Oh, I know. That's interesting. Our force of thrust should just be 0. Right? Because we're basically trying to... Sorry, Chad, I need to think for a second. We're essentially trying to estimate our apoapsis altitude when we're coasting. So yeah, when we're coasting, our force of thrust is going to be 0. So that should be coasting, no thrust. That should be what that is anyways. Is vessel mass dry mass or current wet mass? Should be, that's actually a good question. It should be according to, let's see, mass. The total mass of the vessel, including resources. So that should be the instantaneous mass of our vessel. Euler's is just a numerical method, right? Yeah, it is. What's up, Quintessa? How are you? You lost me after simple. Apologies. Please, at any time, chat. I know I go kind of fast on this because my mind just starts like racing. So if I ever trip anybody up, please do not hesitate to ask questions. Okay. That goes on YouTube as well. This will be uploaded to YouTube afterwards. Probably tomorrow. So FT is going to be 0. We also need our force of drag. And then we also need our force of gravity. Do we actually have in our kRPC the force of gravity here? I know we can get the things to calculate the force of gravity. Celestial body, or would it actually be in flight? Because it's based on altitude, right? Essentially, if we want to actually be 100% correct. It's based on our radius from the center of Kerbin. I just wanted to see if there was like a get current gravity force. There's aerodynamic force. So I guess it's not in flight. Is it in orbit? Is there not just an instantaneous force of gravity? Like I said, if not, we can pretty easily calculate it. It would just be nice if there was. Yeah, let's see here. So celestial body. So yeah, we can get the gravitational parameter. We can get surface gravity. Density, so no. Reference frames, okay. So no, we have to calculate our own. Write some Fortran? Yeah, I thought gravity was constant. It is not. The force of gravity, right, is inversely proportional. Well, okay. I should say the force of gravity is the is proportionally equivalent to the two masses, right? If you're talking about the two-body problem, two masses, and inversely proportional to its radius. So because we're going up away from the surface, we're moving away, we're increasing our radius, so our force of gravity actually gets smaller. Okay, well in that case, we are just going to, I'm going to leave that right there and shrink it so I can kind of look at the things we need. Let's see. So I need vessel.orbit.body.gravitational parameter. Okay. So yeah, force of gravity is going to be vessel.orbit .body.gravitational parameter, right? Yep. Gravitational parameter. Okay. And then that is going to have to be multiplied by vessel.mass and divided by r squared, but r is actually going to be the equatorial radius plus h, right? Do we have something that just simplifies that? Vessel flight orbit, current orbit of the vessel, autopilot. Do we just have like a radius? No. Altitude. Oh, actually it should be under orbit, right? Should be so that's apoapsis. Do we have just current radius? The current radius of the orbit in meters. This is the distance between the center mass of the object in orbit and the center of mass of the body around its orbiting. So we should just be able to use that. So this should be vessel.orbit .radius. I think that should be fine. Oh yeah, if we're talking about real life, yeah, the force of gravity is all messed up, right? Because Earth is not spherical. You have different proportionalities of mass along the surface as well, like mountains, right? Mountains, because they are quite literally massive mounds of rock and dense materials. You actually have higher force of gravity around mountains, for instance. And then yeah, it's kind of crazy how all that is. What you're writing, we're currently developing a Euler integrator numerical method to calculate, or estimate rather I should say, when to shut down our engines to achieve a desired apoapsis, because we're basically going straight up, shutting off our engines, and then coasting to a desired apoapsis. So I'm creating an Euler step function here. And then force of drag, we should be able to get just the force of drag. G-force, latitude, velocity, speed, rotation, direction, heading, roll, prograde. I know drag is here. Is it just like at the bottom? There it is, and it returns a tuple. So we don't want that. We just want the total drag force. We don't want it broken up into its components X, Y, and Z. So that's going to be numpy.linalg.norm, and I think I'm going to have to import numpy. Import numpy as numpy. Norm, and then we're going to want numpy array of vessel dot flight, and this has parentheses around it, doesn't it? It does. Vessel dot flight dot drag. So ideally that's it right there. So we have our force of thrust, which is 0 because we're coasting. We have our force due to drag. Yep. Okay. Not bad, not bad. So then that is essentially going to completely erase all of this. That is essentially going to completely eliminate all of this. Yeah. Needed to define an initial height and velocity. Yeah, this is where we'll do that. Yes, indeed. So I don't need this. I don't need this anymore. This, I can just say, while true, and we'll just make sure to have break conditions. I want to leave the sleep here, I think. Don't need that. Don't really need any of this then. Drag, apoapsis. Nope. Okay. So should not need any of that. Okay. This is where the fun can begin, chat. So we want to predict future apoapsis here. That's what we're going to end up doing. So the first thing we pretty much need to do is get our H next. Well, I guess we should say our H current. Yeah. And that's going to be when we enter this, right? We're going to be getting our actual altitude here, and our altitude should be in flight, I think. Mean altitude, the altitude above sea level in meters. That should be the one. So we need vessel.flight.mean altitude. Vessel.flight.mean altitude. Okay. And then we need our velocity current, which is going to be equal to vessel.flight.vel. Do we only want vertical velocity? I think I might try vertical velocity. So that'll be under our telemetry. Vertical velocity. I think I want to try that. I don't know if it needs to be the total magnitude of our velocity, or if because we only care about our apoapsis, it needs to be our vertical velocity. It might need to be the total. You know what? Let's start with total, I think, and then we can go from there. Is that under flight, by the way? And it returns a tuple. So I think I need to do the same thing we did up here, right? For acceleration. Yes. So that's going to be velocity current, and that is going to be of velocity. So we take the norm of our velocity. That should be hopefully fine. Feels like we're programming a rocket on the pad. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Save the old before saving new unless you don't need the old. Always work on a copy. Yeah, this is actually uploaded on GitHub chat. I actually pushed the most recent version today, so anybody can go on there and check it out if you want and dive deeper. just work on production hardware, don't worry about it. Yeah, exactly, don't even worry about it. Okay, so we have our H current, we have our V current, and now we need to do our time steps. So for some amount of time steps in range of what's our time step going to be? That kind of is the thing that matters. Let's say 2 minutes, 120 seconds, and we'll have a time step of 1 second to start. That might not be accurate enough, but you know, we'll see. We'll essentially see. So now we have H future. V future is going to be equal to Euler step of H current, V current, and a dt of 1 second. Yeah, just so I know what 1 second actually is. Well, we'll try 1 second at first and see if that's any good. So like your integrator, right? The larger you have your step, the more error you introduce into your equations, right? Think about like measurements. If you have to be really, really accurate in, let's say, you know, measuring your car's velocity so that way you can develop a cruise control. If you're only measuring your car's velocity like every 10 seconds, you have a large room for error, right? Same thing here for our integrator step function. The larger we make this dt, the faster we can make the integration process, but the larger the time step involved for trying to propagate forward our future states, our future measurements. So it's a careful balance between how fast we want this to iterate and how accurate we actually need it to be. So we'll see. We'll start with 1 second first. It'll go for a 2 minute. 2 minutes might even be way too much. I don't know. We might only need it to be like a minute for a coast, right? Coast up to apoapsis for something that goes suborbital. We'll play with these numbers for a few tests and see how that kind of does for us. Okay, cool. And then we need a break statement from this, right? So if H future is greater than target altitude, we want to essentially control our vessel to be, is it just throttle? Vessel, it should be vessel control dot throttle. There it is. So yeah, vessel control dot control dot throttle. Okay, so vessel dot control dot throttle equals 0, and then we break, and there we go. Something like that. Pretty simple if this works. I guess we'll see if this works though. And then we wait until our surface altitude so we coast until we're less than our target altitude. Yes, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. We set up our hover slam controller. Do we use a low pass filter anywhere? No, we do not use a low pass filter anywhere. So let's go ahead and delete that. We kind of made the low pass filter obsolete anyways. We developed this digital filter low pass filter class so we can limit the rate of change of our PID inputs and outputs. But we basically just integrated that directly into our PID with our rate limiter. So basically the output is not allowed to change except for our rate limit. So if we're talking about degrees and we say our rate limit is 1, then it can only increase the actual output by 1 degree. So all right, well, that I think is all we need for a first test. Let's move this over here. And is this fully fueled? It is not. I should probably do that. There we go. So if you're wondering what I'm doing here, I've actually set this up, this pad here, using a mod called Kerbal Constructs. And this allows you to set up pads that you can actually refuel at by clicking on the tanks. So we can get a lot of reusability this way, which is pretty cool. So let's hit the go button, chat, and see what happens. So we're just going to hit the go button and see if it breaks. It might break. We might have an error somewhere. Who knows? Was trying KSP 2. I think they changed the camera controls. I don't know. I couldn't seem to spin the view so it was in sunlight instead of backlit. Oh, interesting. Oh, yep. Missing one required positional argument. Oh, vessel. I didn't. Silly goober. This is actually, can I manually control this, chat? Help. Manually control enabled. Manually bringing this back. I want to reuse it. I forgot to auto save, chat. All right, come on, we can do this. Come on, Rocket Guy. The automated control system makes it look so freaking easy. How hard can it be, right? Just bring it back towards the runway. Just tease it. Tease it. Yes, good. Okay, get yourself upright. That's good. That's better. Yeah, look at that, chat. Who needs automated guidance in Python when you can just do something like this? This is safe. Are we actually gonna bring it right back on the landing pad like this? On this trajectory? Almost. I don't want to really touch it though. This is great, actually. Okay, tease it. Tease it. This is fine. We're good. Ooh, yeah. It's so easy when you have so much fuel, chat. All right, bring it back. All right, bring it back. And we're just gonna land it right there. Woo! All right. Not bad. Cool. Well, let's refuel and autosave and then, yeah, quick save rather, and we'll go from there on this next test flight. So we fixed the problem, I think. Yeah, not bad, right? Make sure we did, in fact, fix the problem, right? So that now takes a vessel, which we have defined up here. Good. And then that takes a vessel. Okay. Save it. Launch it. Let's see what happens now. There we go. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, chat. Uh-oh. It did it. It did a thing. We didn't fix a problem. Ah, yes. The good old-fashioned way of debugging. Cannot unpack an iterable. Ooh. We have a tuple somewhere? Okay, okay. We apparently have a tuple somewhere that I forgot to get rid of. Not a problem. To jump to different flight modes? That would be smart. That would almost be too smart. What do you take me for? All right, let's get it back on the runway. You know, I forgot to F5 as well, so. Someone with a PhD. Hey. Keep it above the belt. How dare you? All right, there we go. Just bring it back. Nice and easy, chat. I said nice and easy. Nice and easy. There we go. All right. Let's try this again. F5. He was, yeah. I guess, technically. If only there was some pre-flight error check. If only, if only. Last stage to orbit. Final call. F5, 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 F5. There it goes. Quick saving. Good. All right. So what be the dealio here? It says it died here for H future. We have vessel, H current, mean altitude. That should just be a single point, right? It says cannot unpack a non-iterable none type object. Velocity, flight, numpy array. That should be able to, because velocity receives a tuple. And that's what V current is there, right? V current, H current, yeah. Oh. Silly me, chat. Silly me. Well, first of all, this should be a future. I need to name them the same, so that way it updates. Right? Oh, wait, right? Or not? No, that should be right. Yeah, because I'm in a while loop. That should be fine. It's iterating. What's the purpose of this craft again? To do exactly what we're doing. Basically developing GNC, guidance, navigation, and control, on a small reusable vehicle, to then eventually build it for a Falcon 9 style of orbital class vehicle. That's what we're doing. All right, so non-iterable object, H future, V future. Let me make sure I'm returning the right stuff, right? I am not returning anything, chat. No wonder. How rude of me. HB. There we go. It would probably help if I actually returned something to be usable. That would probably be fine, chat, right? That'd probably be good. Yeah. Good talk. Good talk. 0. That should be fine. Okay. F5 again. F5? Yeah, F5. Good. And launch it. Hey, all right, we're not breaking yet, chat. That's a positive. That's a positive. I'll take it. So right now we're targeting 30 kilometers altitude here for our apoapsis. So ideally we should be going to like 31, 32 kilometers, and we'll coast up to that altitude. I should have made a print statement to see how the integrator is doing, so we can tune it a little bit. I guess if it stops at 30 kilometers, we'll be good. Yeah, fiddle with it long enough, you'll figure it out for sure. All right, we're coming up on what should hopefully be shutdown. 27, 28, 29, 30, and any second. Retro. Well, let's see. Is it going to stop at all ever? No? Just going to go right on, huh? Good talk. Good talk. Ah, good old 84 seemed to do the trick, chat. No, it's actually because we passed 30 kilometers. The infinite glitch. Yeah, let me actually add a print statement here. Yeah, let me see. Let me print H future, the future versus target altitude. So next go around we can see. But anyways, if you guys want to see what it does currently, right, we can do the whole landing. It's definitely way overburned. Oops. You'll run out of fuel eventually. That is true. That is true. We still have 700 meters per second of delta V though. All right, so like I said, it belly flops. Print it's just print it's working, yeah. So here we go. I added a print statement here so we can see the output of our Euler integrator. And yeah, we'll go from there. If H future is greater than target altitude, yeah. So that should work. We'll have to see. Baked in attitude control for now. Well, sort of. Yeah. I want to change that, train man. I want to change that into like line of sight proportional integral derivative control, or proportional derivative control, pure pursuit. See, this is why we need navigation and control, because we're not looking good here on our trajectory. We're about to go into the water, right? Less than ideal, I would say. All right. Just cleaning the soot off? Yes. Yes, indeed. All right, and we're in landing mode, by the way, chat, just so you know. Coming down right on the runway. All right, it's calculating its landing burn. All right, landing burn start. Tease it. Tease it. Tease it. And there we go. Now constant rate of descent until touchdown. Right in the hole, of course, chat. Why wouldn't it be right in the hole? you had all of this room. All of this room. And you land right here. Brilliant. Well, that was good. Could have been better by like a lot, but I'll take it for now. Would it be easy to make it point west and then belly flop? Yeah. Yeah, I could just change the heading from 90 to 270. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no problem with that. What I want to do though is actually have it controllable back to a target point. All right, there we go. Perfect. Okay. So, we now have our future and target done. So that's getting velocity. It's getting the norm of the velocity. We get our mean altitude, so that should be correct. We should not, we want to calculate where our apoapsis is without the engines on. So our coast period, right? So that should be fine to account for no thrust at that point. The only forces that we should have acting on the vehicle is thrust, drag, and gravity in KSP, right? Because we don't have We don't have real world perturbations. We don't have spherical gravity harmonics. We don't have wind and turbulence, right? The atmosphere is perfect. So we should just have drag and gravity. And we have mu times mass. Oh. Oh. Chat, do you see what I see? There's a Christmas song in there somewhere. Yeah, I made a boo-boo. The force of gravity is inversely proportional to the radius squared. Squared, chat. Squared. So yeah, that was bad. That was probably a big problem. So with that, let's go ahead and F5 again and relaunch it. Honestly, that's super impressive as most of this is above my head. Like I said, ask all the questions that you can think of. I will be happy to go over the code line by line. It's also on GitHub if you want to check it out as well. All of my launch scripts, because I tailor them to the individual launch vehicles. I kind of want to remake this actually to some degree after tonight, probably, just to streamline it and whatnot. But yeah, happy to talk through it all. So this should all be good, right? Yeah. Okay. Let's try it. Squared. Exactly, Uncle Bill. Uncle Bill gets a chat. All right, let's see. 175. So that's pretty slow, right? That's what I was a little bit worried about. That seems to be a bit slow. 1 kilometer at basically 2 kilometers. It's like it's operating at like half the speed here. So there's a couple of things that we can do to change that. So yeah, here in range of 120, we're going out to 2 minutes, and I don't think we have to. We can probably cut that in almost half, actually. And then we could also increase our step time as well, potentially. So it does less iterations, but then it becomes more inaccurate. So there's always that. We could also potentially get rid of this sleep time, because it means that it stops doing an integration process every what is that, 1/5 of a second. So it does it 5 times a second, but I don't know if that's actually true on the clock speed here. Yeah, see, look at this, 47. We're basically at half the altitude. Can we just multiply it by 2? So that didn't actually improve anything, strangely enough. Wouldn't you want to decrease it? Yeah, but then that makes it, well, that's a good question, actually. We can certainly try to decrease it and see if it's still able to iterate fast enough. The thing I'm worried about is that it's just not able to iterate fast enough. But that could be, it could be the opposite problem. It could be that it has too big of a time step. That's true. We'll try increasing that first and foremost. Also, what was it? A minute? So yeah, let's instead of 120 seconds or 120 time steps. Ooh, but if we're only doing, no, I'm gonna have to increase that, right? Let's do we're gonna have to do like 1,000 actually, because we're only doing 1/10 of a second, and so this is time steps. So yeah, that would be 100 seconds, which would be about right. Okay. Looks like we're actually going to come down right on the pad from here. Probably not, though, because we're going to start getting our horizontal velocity as we get lower in the atmosphere. Because, again, we don't have any pitch, roll, or yaw control right now. We're just holding this attitude. Tease it. Tease it. Tease it. Oh dear. We're fine. Everything is fine. That was kind of lucky. It just did a complete spiral. That was actually pretty lucky. Otherwise, we would have just like gone out into the water. All right, we're in landing mode. Calculating landing trajectory. And there we go. Engines on. Are we gonna be on the runway again? All right, better than last time. No, not the ditch, please. Thank you. Cool. All right, well that was good. All right, chat. Yeah, let's do the decrease of the time step to see if that's the first problem. Alrighty then, let's immediately try this again with the decreased time step. So DT of 0.1 versus 1. Ooh, that is slow, chat. We're already at a kilometer. Yeah, no, this is worse. This is worse. It's because it takes so long to iterate through. Immediately regret this decision. 3,400 at 7,000. It's actually consistently half off. Why is that, chat? Why would it be consistently about half? This one's actually a little bit more than half, but still. Seems to be consistently half off. Why? In this case, it's actually a little bit... Let's see if it actually goes all the way up to around 80. Because if it ends at 80 again, then it's something different. It's programming start? Yeah, we're using Python to automate this entire flight. Oh no, it's definitely going to go way over 80. Uh-oh. We're in trouble, chat. Just multiply by 2. Yeah, no kidding. Interesting. One thing I do want to do that I forgot to do previously. Do we have enough to re-enter? Probably. I want this to go bye-bye. So we're not sleeping in this control loop, because then that's just delaying the next iteration. Is we take our altitude, our instantaneous altitude, our instantaneous velocity, and we run through 1,000 iterations at 0.1 time step. Oh, wait a second. I see the potential problem. The for loop, right, it keeps going with H current, but we're not updating H current in this for loop, right? To then, because it's going inside of a for loop, it should update H current, so that way when it goes next into here, H current is now our H future, right? H future, and then we also need V current equals V future. So that way it updates in this loop here to do 1,000 iterations, updating and using our new future. And then on the last iteration, this should still be true because it'll use the last future hold. Okay, I think that's better. Yeah, essentially, Wisp, we're basically computing our next step altitude based on our, for 1,000 steps without doing any updating. So maybe we're still re-entering, by the way, which is kind of crazy. That was a really long coast time. So hopefully now this is fine, because now we're updating H current in our for loop. So we go H future. We basically go from outside the for loop, right? We get our instantaneous altitude and velocity. We step into our for loop. We then do our first iteration using our previous altitude velocity, and we go up. We estimate it by 1 time step, and then we return what that 1 time step estimation is for our altitude and velocity, and then we update our H current and V current, and then we step back up, right? So now our H current and V current is now updated with the previous steps prediction, and we do that 1,000 times, right? That should be better. That, I think, will fix that problem. And then this should still hold true, because after we do this 1,000 times, H future will be the last iteration and will be the most updated value. And then we do the whole thing over, getting our next. Yeah, okay. So I think that should hopefully solve that problem. Oh, yep. See, this is a problem, chat. This is why we need guidance. Because look at it. It can't flip over. Oh god, this one went really far downrange. This is why we need navigation and guidance back to the ideal landing spot. Yep. Why don't they just use a 20-foot stack of heat tiles under super heavy? What, on the pad? Talking about on the pad? And we have our landing burn ignition. Looking good. And there we go. Stop. Easy peasy. Oh, we ran out of fuel. Hey. Oh no. Oh, this is fine. Wow. Good. So how far? Oh, we were only 7 kilometers off. That's totally okay. Yeah, tiles. It's just stacked tiles. Yeah. Should the if be inside the for loop? Nothing exits your for loop. It just does it 1,000 times every time. Let's see. So we do it for 1,000 iterations, and then it exits, but it should keep my last value of H future. I don't have to return anything, right? Unless that's something in Python that I'm not familiar with. It should just pass it, like what's used here should be the last value of what's used in the for loop, which is the 1,000th iteration, which should be fine, I think. Question mark. Well, you know, only one way to find out, which is test. Where we're going, we don't use nose cones. That's true, I guess, technically. Well, also not true, actually, at the same time. All right. Oh, that's better. Yep, that's good, chat. Ah, that's great. Yes, wonderful. Huh. Yes. Better. Better, chat, better. Fantastic. We've definitely fixed the issue. High five, chat. I just want to see when it's going to shut off now. Do I actually even have a shut off condition for this? No, yeah. It's interesting. Oh. We're going positive, chat. Nice. We're getting there. We're slowly climbing towards 30 kilometers altitude. Yeah, I'm gonna call that a dud. I think we can clean this up a little bit, actually. Let's see. So instead of just calling it this, right, we could essentially just use all the same variable. Just so we can avoid the update to simplify it. So v future, and then this should now be v future. Just so we can get rid of the this part here. And then I think the other problem I'm having is I Actually, how do I want to do this? I need to check if we go past our apoapsis, because I think that's what's happening. We're iterating so far that we're actually basically having a negative altitude because the integrator is going past the apoapsis. So I think I need to h old is going to be equal to our current h, which is h future, and then we need to say if h future is greater than less than h old, then break, right? I think that's what we need to do. Because essentially how an integrator works, right? Let me actually think this through. So how the integrator works, like, right, is if we think of this as our altitude versus time, right? So we'll have this as our h versus time. We essentially start, right, and we go up, and then we have our first calculation, right? So this is our initial h and velocity, and then what it's doing is it's doing for 1,000 time steps an integration, a prediction, right? A prediction of what our future h and v are going to be in 1,000 time steps. Now, granted, our time step is very small, so 1,000 of them is not super small, but at point 1, we're doing 100 seconds. So essentially, I think what's happening is the prediction is doing this, and then it's going down, and this is how we're achieving a negative altitude. So what I need to do is do this comparison here for h future and h old to see if like this point is less than this point, and if it is, then break, because we don't want to continue integrating if it's just going to give us a negative value. I think that is what could potentially be causing an issue here. I'm not sure, but that is an issue I see. So let's just add that check, right? Can you set the integration step amount to the current apoapsis ETA? Oh. Maybe, actually. Do we have? That actually might not be a bad idea, to be honest with you. So we can have that check. Then also in terms of orbits, apoapsis, we need time. We should have that. Time to apoapsis in seconds. All right. So let's see how we can do this. So this is going to be vessel.orbit. So this is going to be, let's change this to vessel.orbit.time to apoapsis divided by dt, right? And we'll change this to dt. And then outside here, we'll change to dt to actually be a variable, right? And so then that might hopefully do something. Hopefully. Yeah. Let's try that. I like that. It's a good idea, I think. Yeah, exactly, Wisp. Well, like I said, only one way to find out is test. Float object cannot be interpreted as an integer. Why is it being interpreted? Oh, for range? Let's just give it as an int. Because range, I think, requires a integer, right? Yeah, integer. Yeah. My bad. Quick, don't look, chat. You didn't see anything. It's still a little behind, but that might be fine. Because remember, it should be somewhat behind, right? Because it's accounting for drag and gravity. It's accounting for drag, which the apoapsis on the left there does not account for. So it might be okay. It's at least not negative, right, chat? Okay, it's starting to get a little bit too far behind now, which is a little worrisome. Because now it's at 12 and we're only at 8. Yeah, now it's really falling behind. That's wild. I'm not sure why. We can try a bigger time step and see if that helps. Because see, now it's half. So it's definitely lagging. Is our drag calculation not correct? Is kRPC... Because see, there's our apoapsis, and we're still climbing. We're only at 20 now. Yeah, it's continuing to 80 like before. Interesting. Gosh dang it, chat. I thought we had it. Orbit radius. Orbit radius better be in meters. Orbit radius should hopefully be in meters. It looks like it will be in meters. In meters, good, okay. Oh. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay, that should be fine, yeah. Wait a second. At H. We actually, yeah, that's actually not correct. That's also an error, right? Because it's taking our current radius, but that's not true. Because it has to account for our altitude. Yeah, 1 second, Trayman. Let me think this through. So I'm pretty sure this is wrong, actually. Is our radius changing with our altitude? And this is just getting our instantaneous altitude. Instantaneous altitude. So not our future. So let me actually do something here. So R is going to equal it should be celestial body, right? Equatorial radius. So we need that celestial body, equatorial radius, right? Or no, that should be under orbit. Vessel.orbit.celestial body, I think is what it has to be. Did I use that somewhere? Oh, it's body. Yeah, orbit.body. Okay. That's what it is. Vessel.orbit.body. So R is going to equal vessel.orbit.body equatorial radius plus H. That I think is what we need. And then replace this with R. And also our mass. Oh man, our mass could also be updated, chat. Yeah, our forces are not correct. So mass flow rate, we could do it with mass flow rate of our engines. Sorry, I'm thinking through this, chat. Because this is an integrator, and so we're getting our current vehicle mass at every time step. That's not correct because our vessel, also our drag is, no, drag should stay relatively the same. No, it should not. Oh my god, all of our forces are getting our instantaneous forces. All of our forces have been wrong. That's why. Because this is getting our current drag when we enter the integrator loop, and it's not changing our drag with what it should be at altitude. Unbelievable, chat. So I actually need to calculate drag here. Oh god, this is actually getting it way more complicated than I was originally hoping for. Because in order to calculate drag, I also have to calculate our change in atmospheric density. Because it's rho, it's Q CD times A. Oh, we can get ballistic coefficient, and see that should come with CD times A, right? Isn't that what ballistic coefficient is? Sorry, there's a lot rattling up around here. Ballistic coefficient, isn't that just mass divided by CD times A? Algebra, bruh. Mass divided by CD times A. So we can actually, at least I think we can, right? Can't we get for our vessel the ballistic coefficient? Is it under flight? There we go. We have our ballistic coefficient. So we have CD times A. So if we just invert the ballistic coefficient and multiply it by our mass, then we can get that. We can use a exponential model for our density. No, density, yeah, density is based on altitude. We can use an exponential model based on density. All right, so we have H. H is already updated. To get the force of drag though, we need our velocity. But we do get our current velocity, so that's fine actually. All right, so 1 second. Let's just delete this. So we basically need 0.5 times rho times V squared times CD times A, right? That's essentially what drag is. 1/2 rho V infinity squared times the coefficient of drag times the cross-sectional area is what that is what that words as. Is how you would say that. So how do I want to do this? So with rho, we can actually get a exponential model atmospheric density. I think we need the characteristic height. So this is for, yeah, I think this should be roughly the same for both pressure and density potentially. Let me see something here, chat. Kerbal scale height. The Euler integrator was assuming the same amount of drag for every time step, even though each time step is higher and higher in the atmosphere. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, so here's the scale height I was talking about, but that's for pressure, and we can get rho RT, but we don't have that. We don't have temperature. I'm pretty sure we can use a similar exponential model for rho, because rho does decrease exponentially, or at least we can probably assume that it does. And I don't have a way to propagate forward temperature. So what is an okay method to do this for density? That's the problem, because we need drag, and we can get everything to use for this except for density. So here we go. This is what I found, chat. I found at least a actual model of the density. So we're gonna, well, this is yeah, altitude versus density, right? So we found this table, and I'm just gonna put it into Excel and go from there. There we go. And then I want a best fit curve, a trend line, and that trend line should probably be exponential. Why can't I use exponential? What about just on these? Why won't it let me use exponential, chat? Come on. That's better. There we go. There we go. KSP still launching? No, I haven't started it back up. We were busy with this for the second. More options, and then give me the equation. There we go, chat. Hallelujah, we found it. But not that one. This one. This one. Actually, this one. Please. Go away. Go away. There we go. This one. That's the one, chat. Display. All right, we found it. We found a potential model here. So rho is going to equal 1.7185 times math. Actually, does NumPy give it to me? Yes, it does. Exponential of -2 e -0.4 times h. Ideally, that works. Ideally, that works. All right, so now that I have that, let's get Kerbal up and running again. Yeah, ideally that works now, chat. For our estimation. All right, so we have that part. We have that part. So yeah, we should have all of this now, and then we need ballistic coefficient. Okay. So now we need CDA is going to equal vessel dot flight dot ballistic coefficient. Let me actually check to make sure that that is correct. So ballistic coefficient is under flight. So yes, vessel.flight.ballistic coefficient, and it is a float. Awesome. Love to see it. And then this is going to be, I actually need it to be the inverse of this. So it should be 1 divided by that. Because the ballistic coefficient is mass divided by CD times A. So then this should be CD times A divided by mass. Right, because this is the inverse. And then I want to multiply by mass, but we're gonna have to now calculate mass, chat, because mass is gonna have to go here as well. So we need mass to go there, and we need mass to go here, so we have to calculate mass. That's what we got to do. Yeah. So what is mass going to be in terms of, it's going to be our delta of our fuel burn. So it's going to be m naught minus our mass flow rate times dt, right? So can we get like mass flow rate from our engines anywhere? So we can go to parts. Okay. If we go to parts and we go to engine, thrust, available thrust, max thrust, vacuum thrust, limit thrusters, specific impulse, propellants, has fuel, throttle locked, independent, can start, can shut down, has modes. Just give me the, that's propellant. Total resources available. What? You don't just have like a mass flow rate? Is that really gonna just have to be hard coded? What is mass flow rate of an engine? Mass flow rate of rocket engine. Is there a relationship with like ISP and stuff? You can also just hard code it to cheese it for testing. Yeah, I wouldn't mind hard coding this because the engines are going to be like full throttle every time. There it is. ISP F divided by M naught times G naught. So we can rearrange that for M dot. Okay. That's what I'm looking for, chat. It might be a property of the engine part. Probably right. All right, so mass of our vehicle is going to be equal to vessel.mass minus our mass flow rate. So we now need m dot is going to be equivalent to our F divided by ISP times G naught. Okay, so we should be able to get all of that information. So we should be able to get the force of our engines. Actually, the force of our entire vessel, because again, that will not change. Oh, no, that is true. Oh, man. 1 second, chat. I don't know if this is actually required, because our mass, we're assuming that we're not thrusting during this coast period, right? So our mass should not be changing. So actually vessel.mass is fine, because we're doing this iteration assuming our engines are cut off. Son of a gun, chat. So I'm pretty sure vessel.mass is actually okay. Because remember, we're doing this to figure out when we need to shut down our engines in order to coast up to apoapsis, our target apoapsis. So that means our engines will actually be off during this entire supposed prediction. So I don't actually have to calculate mass. So that saves up, but we still needed to do this. Still needed to do that. Still need to calculate our drag. So that's still fine. Okay, so we have CD, A, we have V. So yeah, we should now be able to calculate our force of drag. So that's going to be 0.5 times rho. Yep. Times V squared times CDA. One way to find out if it's right, that is true. Let's load up the game, shall we? So that should be okay, I think. I think that should be better now, because we essentially made our R now change with the step, because that makes sense, because we're going to be increasing our altitude. So our force of gravity will be changing. We also are now changing our force of drag, which wasn't originally changing, because originally we were just getting the drag, but our current drag. But if we're going to be increasing in altitude and all that sort of stuff, that will be changing as well. So hopefully this will help, chat. Let me just go over here. Can I do, what is it? Quick save? Day 3, 294, 452. I think that's correct. Should have just been whatever the last quick save was. All right, we'll see, chat. We'll see how it goes. Moment of truth. Let it connect. There it goes. Has no attribute ballistic coefficient. Oh, is it not called ballistic coefficient? Okay. Boop. I did not read the documentation. Apologies. What's it called? Should be flight, I think. Ballistic. Or did I just misspell it? Did I just misspell it? Is that all that happened? I did. Of course I did. There we go. Yep, 2 F's. There are 2 F's in chat. F's in chat. 2 F's in chat, in fact. How about that? Son of a... All right. Now what's wrong? This is a new one, chat. CD times A. Build error. Far is not a... Oh, do we not have the ballistic coefficient? Is that far only? Are you serious right now? That ruins everything. Requires firm aerospace research mod. Wow, really? Really, really, really? Ah, man, none of this is just making it like nice and easy. Nothing is making it nice and easy. All right, 1 second. 1 second, chat. Ballistic coefficient. It should not change. Because all it is mass times CD times A. Now, our area could technically change based on however it calculates the drag cube. But maybe we can just use 600 kilograms per meter squared, which is roughly what it looks like it is, right? I guess we can always just launch it and see. Like, does that change? Oh, it does immediately. 7,300, chat. 7,400. Well, our mass is decreasing, that's why. So we need our average ballistic coefficient for a flight. Ah, man, it gives it to us here. How do we not get it from... That's so messed up, chat. Oh, wait, actually, CD times A. Now, why is that increasing now? S is the same thing as A, essentially. It's our surface area. Well, what's good is we can use this, though, chat. Our CD times A is roughly 2.2, 2.3. It kind of fluctuates back and forth depending on our angle of attack, is what it seems to do. Let me turn infinite propellant off, and let me just revert real quick and try that again. And let's only look at CD times S. So let's look at our CD times S. I'm pretty sure that should be roughly stable, depending, of course, on the drag cube. And our drag cube changes, right, based on our angle of attack. So we can call it like maybe 3.2 CD times A, maybe. Yeah, it'll change as the AOA changes. See, watch. See? Because our drag cube is different. But we're gonna mostly be always going prograde until we belly flop, so I'm okay with estimating it at like 4 or something like that. Because we might not ever be like perfectly prograde, but 3.5, 4 seems decent. Why is thrust increasing? Because we're gaining higher altitude, so our engines become more efficient at higher altitudes. That's why. It'll stop once we hit vacuum efficiency, whatever that is for these engines, which it seems to be around 479. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna assume, I think, we're gonna assume probably 3.2. I think that's a number that I can go with for our CD times A. That really sucks, though. I really thought we had something here with calculating CD times A with our ballistic coefficient, but we need ferrum aerospace to be able to do that. Okay. 3.2. This is going to be kilograms per meter cubed, which should be fine because that is the same for rho in kilograms per meter cubed. Our drag force should accept kilograms. Yes. Yes, that's fine. And then that should be fine. Okay. Yeah, so we'll think 3.2 should be fine, even though it's... I mean, we could. That's what I'm saying. We could actually calculate the ballistic coefficient. but that would just require us to have more things in our equations of motion that are updated with time, right? Because we would actually have to figure out our drag and carry our drag over with respect to our like angle of attack, so we could actually calculate the CD. Yeah, it wouldn't be pretty, that's for sure. I don't actually know if we could actually. We would also need the geometry of our vehicle. I'm not sure if we can get the area of our vehicle. Ah, whatever. This might be good enough for government work, so let's figure it out, right? These are thuds, Phasey. These are thuds. All right, there we go. We're calculating. We'll see if it's any better. It's already behind. There's a kilometer, and it's already at 600 meters off. I don't know if that's actually good. It looks like it's staying a little bit better, though. Maybe. Oh no, it's about the same, chat. We're at 5, it's at 9. Ah man, I don't know where, if maybe the Euler is just not a good enough integrator for this, or like a time step or event horizon. What time step are we using here? 0.1. Actually, it's going pretty fast. Do you get A out of the lift to drag ratio? No, because it's a dimensionless. Yeah, we're like half, chat. That's wild. Still, we're at half. Ah, man, this is so frustrating. I don't know where we're going wrong with this calculation. 1 second, I just want to see what happens if we do talim dot vertical velocity and just see what that does, because then that would only be using the vertical component. We're trying to estimate our apoapsis, because the apoapsis in game does not account for drag of your vehicle. So like if you told your engines to stop when apoapsis hits 30, you will bring down your apoapsis over time as you're coasting, right? So we're trying to calculate what our true apoapsis is if we account for things like drag. So that way we know when to shut our engines down so we can coast up to that target. There you go. Just had to restart it because reasons. So it's not our current, because it's definitely higher than that. Oh, well that looks better. That looks a lot better. I think I didn't have the correct reference frame for the velocity that we were using. I think that's what the problem was. Hey, what's up, Intense? How are you doing? Man, I think that was the problem, chat. I wasn't using the correct reference frame for the return on the velocity. It's starting to slow down though, but it might be okay. It's definitely better, 100% better, yeah. Oh yeah, 100% better, wow. I think I need my surface frame. There we go. Oh yeah, look at that, chat, and it's now coming down. That's what we want to see. We should overburn by a certain amount, and then it should naturally coast and come down to meet our target apoapsis within a very small margin of error. What's 500 divided by 30,000? That's a 1.6% error, even less than that. I'll take it. All right, let's do that. Let's do 400 divided by 30,000. Yeah, 1.3% error. That's really not bad. I'll take it. So we passed our 30,000, coasting up. And it should enter our hold, our altitude hold. There it goes. And it's trying to bring it down to 0. There we go, tracking 0, altitude hold, and flip maneuver. Perfect. There we go, chat. How about that? Finally. That only took like 2-3 hours. There we go. Eureka! Exactly. If you cut throttle, would the calculated AP become constant or decrease? It'll decrease. If you didn't see that, the apoapsis, you're talking about this apoapsis here? Or are you talking about the apoapsis that we calculate? Because we're calculating the apoapsis assuming 0 thrust. If you're talking about in our Euler integrator. Okay. Body flop maneuver, chat. If you cut the throttle, would the calculated AP become constant or decrease? It should stay constant. That's a good test to do. It should stay constant though. Well, actually, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Good question. I suppose it would actually decrease, right? Yeah, indeed, names. It'll decrease just because we're approaching, we're coasting and we're increasing our integration time, right? No, God, that is true. That would actually be an interesting little demo to do. Ideally, it would stay the same. I think it should stay the same, yeah. All right, entering landing burn configuration. There's our hover slam maneuver. Hover slam maneuver looks good. Enter our velocity gate or altitude gate. There we go. And then constant rate of descent. Boop. Easy peasy. There we go. How about that, chat? If you're still using AP time for the amount of time steps, it would change slightly as the stock AP and your calculated AP get close together, right? It should, yeah, I think you're right. Because I'm trying to think, at the point of our coast, our then altitude and velocity would, yeah. I guess it would have to change a little bit just from natural deviations in terms of like drag and angle of attack and stuff like that. So if for any other reason, this is a good thought experiment. Okay, chat. Well, I don't know if y'all know this, but we have more things to start. We have more things to start, chat. Because I really want to guide this back down to the landing zone. Or, well, rather the takeoff pad. Whatever you call this, chat, I want to land here. Or at least make sure that we always land close to here. Because right now, it's really just luck of the draw how the aerodynamics affect the vehicle. As you saw, one time we landed over here. A few times we've landed over here. That time we landed like right here, but a couple times before that we landed over here. There's just the dispersion zone is like this. What I would really like to do is cut that to be like this. Or better yet, like this. That would be amazing. So that I think is what we're going to work on next. And I think the first way I want to try doing that is just with a very simple line of sight calculator, which is just going to get the basically tell the rocket to always point towards the pad. So that way it should always try to, if it goes past it, it should try to turn around and steer back and all of that sort of stuff. But could you please check my memory's failing me. Oh yeah. What was the old NASA concept vehicle called that looked like this? DCX. DCX. No. DCX. Launch vehicle. McDonnell Douglas. This chat. This is what we made in KSP. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. This is an actual vehicle. This was a test article being developed by McDonnell Douglas as an effort to develop a reusable launch vehicle back in the 90s. It was actually even supposed to be a reusable SSTO. Yeah. Mine is the part where we didn't stop funding in the first time because it fell over. Yeah, indeed. So this was a test article here that they were testing the GNC. The GNC to re-enter the atmosphere, fly and land back, pinpoint precision landing back at a landing pad. So what you're seeing right now is the vehicle basically going up, and at some point it will transition over like it is right now, fly sideways, basically belly flop down while it does it, and then right itself into landing configuration when it's getting near the landing zone, and there we go. And now it's in landing configuration. Used 4 RL-10s, by the way. Yep. This thing is a very cool concept. It used sea level RL-10s. Indeed it did. And boop, there it goes. Nailed it. Yeah. Ideally change the roll and yaw is what I'm gonna try first. There's a lot of different ways we can do it, but I'm thinking about just changing the roll and the yaw. Yeah. Then there's actually an element where we could potentially change the pitch angle in order to keep our horizontal velocity near 0 when we're over the landing site, so it's an easy transition. There's a lot of different ways we can do this, but I think I'm going to try lateral steering first just to see how well that does, and then go from there. That thing was nuts. Indeed it was. Indeed it was. So yeah, how are we going to do that? I'm thinking, honestly, like I said, a very simple line of sight angle, which is actually part of proportional derivative control, or at least it can be used as part of proportional derivative control, which is also another name for pure pursuit control. Essentially, it means you're always pointing towards the target. It's pretty much a fancy way of just saying that. You basically calculate the difference between where you are with where your target is in terms of latitude and longitude, and you can calculate the vector for where you need to point your vehicle based on those two things alone, which is actually pretty cool, right? So yeah, thinking that we can do that, chat. Thinking that we can do that. kRPC, or yeah, the missile knows where it is because it knows where it isn't, and that's why we got to develop this, chat. We have to develop the capability for the missile to know where it isn't. So we added the Euler integrator and we added the apoapsis target estimator. That is a big fat check, chat. Next, we got to look at our line of sight navigation and developing our PID control for roll and yaw. So I think to do that, I'm going to start off by developing our line of sight angles, which should just be a simple difference of our current position versus our target is pretty much what it should be. So we're going to call that compute line of sight angle, and it's going to take in a current position, and then it should just take in our target position. Now, what we are going to need to do is figure out what our target position is. And I think what I want my target position to be is essentially just our launch point. If we always launch like on the landing site, right? I think we can just do it that way. So yeah, I'm gonna make another one. I think that's what I'm gonna do it. Okay, so we're gonna have target lat. So this is on startup of the script, right, chat? So we're gonna get the vessel.flight. Is it just vessel.flight.latitude.longitude? I think it is. Latitude, longitude, perfect. Gosh dang it. Spelling is not my forte. Latitude, longitude, good. And then we have target longitude, which should just be vessel.flight.longitude. Okay, and then we'll call that our landing site and just make that a tuple here. So target lat and target longitude. There we go. Perfect. So that will be what goes into our target position. So we'll have a current position, a target position. Our current position is going to be an X, Y, and Z coordinate, and our target position will just be the 2. So that's important to know. And then, like I said, we should just be able to get the overall error from our target position minus our current position. I believe it needs to be the negative. So we'll do delta A is going to equal target position. This should be the zeros. So this will be our latitudes, right? Current position, latitude. And then we need delta B, which is going to be target position 1 minus current position 1. So a start. Do you use home world PID controllers, or is there a library you use? So we built our own, but we modeled it off of, you can find a lot of PID libraries on GitHub. So this is probably, I think we did in fact use a couple of them to develop this, and then we added to it based on what our needs were. Like I added a clamp for min output and max output. I also added the, where did I add it? A rate limiter. Yeah, I added a rate limiter here. That way I could essentially create a digital filter that will limit the amount that our output will actually increase if we wanted to. So yeah, there's a few things that we've definitely made our own over time. Okay, so now we have our deltas. We can essentially, we should be able to get our angle here. And that should just be through atan2, which is a general function that's used a lot in GNC to get essentially an angle between your latitude and longitude. Definitely use that a lot in some of my research during my master's degree. So we need that, and that should be, I think NumPy has one. Arc tan 2. Okay. So then it should be x1, x2. So in this case, it should be, I think it should be delta A, delta B. It might be the opposite. Latitude versus longitude. Latitude. Let me actually change that. That should be our delta in the Y direction for latitude and a delta in the X direction for longitude. So that should be like this. Yes, should be X, Y over X. Okay. I think we're good now. So we should just be able to return our angle, and that, I think, of course, I'm sure there's going to be errors we're going to have to test. I think that should be the first one. So that's just the angle there, but we also want to potentially do our rate as well. And our rate in this case is going to be based on our velocity and our position. So we're going to have our current velocity, which will be a vector. Well, can we make it a magnitude? No, I think it needs to be... I think it needs to be the vector, because again, we need the x and y component. Yeah, we need the x and y component to get our... to essentially use the atant2 function again. That's right. Yes. I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with that. If it's wrong, we'll figure it out, and anybody in the VOD can laugh at me. And then we need target position again. And so we essentially need to again get our delta for... Actually, how do we want to do this, chat? Because it's going to be based on the rates. So we can actually get the angle. Oh god, we're going to have to normalize them too. We're going to have to normalize them because, well, at least for our heading angle, because our heading, our yaw, because in KSP with kRPC, you don't just have like a yaw angle, right? You don't just have yaw, chat, you actually have a heading, right? Yaw controls heading, and so in KSP with the autopilot, you have to have a heading, and heading is bounded between 0 and 360, not just positive or negative numbers, 0 to 360. So we're gonna have to normalize our angle based on that, so we don't like try to force it to do a negative heading, which is impossible. Ah, man. Just when you think it's so simple, it's not. It gets way harder. What was your master's topic? I worked on adaptive control systems to manage propellant sloshing in spacecraft. So, you know, when your spacecraft, whether it's a second stage, a first stage, even a satellite, when it gets near end of life, as you burn propellants, you have empty space in your tanks. And that means that your fuel can just move in all of that empty space and slosh around. And that, of course, will create undesirable dynamics in your system. So you have to develop, or one of the ways you can combat that is through adaptive control to try and minimize that sloshing effect. Let's build an orbital fuel depot. Should be easy, right? Well, there's a company working on that. They're called OrbitFab. Yep. Look up OrbitFab. Pretty cool little startup company. Well, I say little. They're like 50 or 60 employees now, but then random number generators. Hey, to each their own, right? If you enjoy that, then why not, right? Why not? So to calculate our rate here, we need to get our velocity angle and our line of sight angle. I think I'm thinking about it correctly. So loss angle is going to equal compute loss angle for our current position and target position. Okay. And then we're going to have to normalize that. Normalize angle, loss angle. And now we're going to need another function here. Normalize angle, angle. It's the mod, right? If you mod 360, and if it's over that, if it's under that, it'll just give you the number. If it's over that, it'll recycle. Yeah, I think that's right. It should just be angle mod 360, right? Hey Rip, how are you? Yeah? All right, cool. So then, yeah, we should normalize that. But see, now we need our angle based on... Oh, you know the other thing? Dang. NumPy and everything, this should be... Actually, no, this would be in radians. Yeah, NumPy gives it in radians. Yeah. So I'm going to need to transform this into degrees, aren't I? Just to keep everything okay. Because the autopilot kRPC uses degrees, not radians. That's why I'm thinking of that. Degrees. Okay. Is it just that easy? Is it just that easy, chat? I think it might be. Degrees of x converts angles from radians to degrees. Awesome. Well, that's simple enough. Cool. So we're gonna have to basically do the same thing, like I said, with our velocity angle, which is essentially going to be the same as this. But our velocity angle is going to be based on our current velocity, our x and our y. So that should be not line of sight. This should be velocity angle. And this is going to be the angle between our current velocity x direction and the current velocity y direction. Yes, good. Okay. And now we need our angle again to be normalized. Is going to be equal to essentially this same exact thing. Copy and paste it. But this is now going to be vel angle. No, stop it, not angle. There we go. All right, I think we're making headway. I used to log onto the internet using the phone line, and watching you doing this right now is blowing my mind, Coasty. I understand. Goodness. Indeed. How far we've come, right? Yeah, you're welcome. All right, let's see here. So we have the angle with respect to our position vector, and now we have the angle, the current angle of our velocity vector. And so what we want to essentially do is create an error that we can use to then control the velocity vector towards the angle. That's essentially what we want to do, right? And so we have our velocity angle and our LOS angle that's being based on that is normalized. So now we should just compute, make a note to myself, compute the shortest angle difference. Yeah, because we don't want the vehicle to do this. We just want the vehicle to make a very short approach to the angle, because there's always two solutions, right? You can go the long way or the short way. So the actual rate that we're talking about, because we're computing, compute the LOS rate, is essentially just going to be our velocity angle minus our line of sight angle. What's the difference between our current velocity and our desired vector towards our launch site, or landing site in this case, right? And then this is where things are going to have to get a little... So what do I need it to actually be? If it's 180, it's 180 equal to, dang it, I had it. Because there's two ways to do it, right? If you're greater than 180, you want to subtract it. And if you're less than negative 180, you add. Because it has to be bounded as well, right? I think that's right. So it should be if LOS rate is greater than or equal to 180. Actually, will it ever be equal to 180? I don't think it'll ever be equal to 180. Oh, anyways. We'll take care of that case, even if it never happens. It'll be the LOS rate. You can do... Can't you do this in Python? Minus E... Right? That's the same as, like, saying LOS rate minus 180. Yeah, I had a total brain fart. Then else... actually, we'll do an else if. LOS rate less than negative 180, because it should be in degrees because we converted it. We converted both of them. That should be fine. We're going to do LOS rate plus equals 360. That should be 360 as well. Yeah, not 1360, 360. Good. Okay. I think that makes sense. So if our difference in our angle is 180 degrees, or I should say greater than 180 degrees, we want to subtract it so we get the angle. The short, because remember, we're trying to find the shortest path. And then if it's less than, we add. Yeah, that should bring it back. Okay, that should bring it back then. I think we're okay. And then we should just be able to return the angle that we just calculated, right? Yeah. I don't know. I think this works. But do you know if Neutron's engines are supposed to be turbopump or electropump like Electron, if it's known yet? I would assume that at least the first stage engines are turbopump. It's a large system. Usually electric turbopump don't scale well because the batteries currently don't scale well, right? Batteries are super heavy as you scale them up more and more. So I'm pretty sure they would be like a gas generator, well, like a more conventional rocket, a turbopump fed system. So we have this, and now I think we can compute our guidance and actually develop our control system. So for this, I am going to have us actually point at 0 now and not 5, because I actually do want the vehicle to now translate forward a little bit, and at 5 we were actually translating backwards. I don't want that. So we'll have our pitch set to there, and then let's set up our roll control, which is going to be a new PID.PID, right? PID.PID, and so that needs a KP. We're just going to start it at 1 with a very small integral, and we'll actually, you know what, let's just do proportional. 0 and 0. And then for our roll control, we'll do a minimum output of -30 and a maximum of +30. So it'll only roll plus or minus 30 degrees. Yeah, I think that's fine. Also, what is the dead band is 0.01? Yeah, that's fine. It might be a little bit over, but whatever. We'll figure it out, right? And then we need yaw control to be a PID. And again, we'll call this 1, 0.0, 0.0. We'll tune this as we go. And now minimum output should be 0, and then maximum output should be 360. Okay, and so then at this point, we should be exiting our mode, because now we have mode 2 here, and everything past this will only be done once. Okay. And then I don't think we want this stuff anymore. I added this as a safety precaution. If we ever got a horizontal velocity greater than 20 before we had our guidance input for turning back to the pad, just go ahead and enter a basically landing configuration so we don't go over the water. But I'm pretty sure for now we can delete that, because hopefully this will work and we can actually turn back towards the pad for landing. That's less than surface altitude. It's time to burn. That's all fine. I think it's here that I want to do this. So I think we can add an else and then essentially have the rest that we need. All right, so we need to get in this point, looking back up here. You know what? I am going to take a screenshot of this so I remember basically what I made here in terms of the inputs and outputs and returns, just so I can have something to look at here. Okay. So what we need for the first one is our current position. And then from there we should be able to get a roll error. All right. So current position is going to be equal to our, we already looked this up, right? It should just be vessel, our current latitude and current longitude. That should be all that we need. So vessel dot flight dot do I want to, I think I can make it a tuple here. Latitude, and it should be latitude first. Yes, it should be latitude first. And then I want vessel dot flight dot longitude. There we go. And then we should just be able to get our roll error, because our roll will be used to track the angle, the actual line of sight angle. It'll end up being a combination, but the roll specifically. And we should be able to do this with our what do we call it? Compute LOS angle. And from here we want our current position. And then we also want our landing site. That's what we want. All right. So this was all to essentially get our compute line of sight to landing pad. Okay. And then our next method should be essentially compute the rate of change. That's the word I was looking for. Rate of change of the line of sight, right? Basically how, or this should be for the angle itself. Compute line of sight angle to the pad. I use hill climbing to produce control inputs for solving boundary value problems. That's actually really cool. Nice. I'll have to look into that more. That's honestly a new one for me. Like, I recognize the name, I've heard of it, but I've never used it or seen it anywhere. So from this, we actually want to basically get our current velocity. And so our current velocity should just be, well, again, we might have to be careful on which velocity we actually get here in terms of frame, right? Does this need to be our surface velocity here? I think it does. It should be our surface velocity. And you know what? I'm just going to bite the bullet and figure out which reference frame are we going to need. I don't want that. There should be a section here on like reference frames to use or to set up somewhere. Somewhere, chat. I think it's actually in vessel, right? Or is it? It might have been in flight, but at the very, oh, there we go. No, that was it. I needed that. So reference frame. I also want to know, like, what's the default reference frame? Is this the default reference frame? The vessel's reference frame? Or is it the orbital? Okay. Ah, surface reference frame. That's actually what I want. I'm pretty sure, yeah. For X up, Y north, Z east. For surface velocity reference frame? Ugh. Which one do I actually want here? I'm trying to get the actual vessel velocity. Because we can do latitude, longitude. Latitude and longitude should be fine. I think just surface. That's what I was assuming as well. The origin is at the center of mass of the vessel. The axes rotate with the north and up directions for the surface of the body. The x-axis in the zenith direction towards normal to the body. Vessel surface reference frame. X is zenith, Y north, Z east. Yeah, that. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is surface reference frame. And now, how do you actually set it? There is, I think I need the tutorials. There should be a way to set up reference frames. Aha! There is. I want Python vessel.orbit.body.reference frame. So that's for the orbital reference frame. So it's vessel.surface. Okay, so it is just vessel. Okay. So then in here, it should be vessel.surface. Surface reference frame, is that what it was called? They should have it up here. Surface reference frame. Okay, vessel.surface reference frame. Cool. I like it. We'll go with that. All right, so now that we have, oh, we also need our actual current. This is actually going to be our current velocity. It's going to equal that. Okay. And so with our current velocity, we can now get our yaw error by computing the what do we call it? Compute LOS rate. Yeah, and that takes in the velocity, the current position, the landing site. Yeah, and then from there we should be able to take that as our yaw and roll error. Well, we already have a roll error, but should be able to take our yaw error now. It's going to be equal to compute LOS rate. We're just going to take in our current velocity, our current position, and our target position. Okay. Sorry, this was actually called landing site. There we go. And now we should be able to update control law, or update, update control inputs. And so now we're just going to have roll control is going to be equal to roll control. It's at the top there. Dot update, and it's going to be our roll error. Okay, and then we have our yaw control is going to be equal to our actually I think I want it to be not the same as that. It should actually just be called something different. There we go. And that should be the same as yaw control dot update yaw error. Okay, but that's not all, chat. We now have to actually change it. So this should be vessel dot auto. Yeah, there it is. Dot auto pilot dot target pitch. Sorry, target roll. Is going to be equal to roll control input. And then we should also have vessel.autopilot.target heading. It's different. It's not yaw. Target heading, which is going to be yaw control input. And I think I also want to, just before this, make sure I print roll control input, yaw control input, just so we can actually see what's happening here. Well, I'm sure there's going to be some errors to debug, but we'll go with that, right? We will go with that, chat. So, who knows what's going to happen? Got no idea, but we're going to do it. We're gonna do it, chat. So that looks fine. I don't see any like egregious errors for syntax, so that's good. So let's see what happens. Okay, we're up. Yes, you know what? I should have actually made ourselves have a lower altitude. Let me actually do that before our next test. We'll just go up to like, I don't know, 11,000 meters instead of 30,000. But hey, you know, we can look at how well our integrator works. So that's good. All right, and now we're chilling, chat. We'll see if this can do what it needs to do. I really have no idea what to expect. Well, I kind of do. I shouldn't say that. I should say I have no idea what to expect. If it works the way I think it should work, then I have definitely an expectation. Is whether or not it lives up to said expectation, I suppose. How are we doing here? 14 kilometers, and we're estimating 16 at 17. Yep, okay, not bad. There we go. Not bad, chat. Like, seriously. We are pretty much on point for that. For our estimation of our apoapsis. And we could actually probably make it better if we actually calculated our average CD times S, because that's probably where the big difference is. Because CD times S, for whatever reason, is fluctuating so much. I guess it's because the drag cube changes so much based on the tiny fluctuations in our angle of attack. But essentially only a 400 meter difference. It's a 1.4% error, which I'm happy with that using an Euler method. I wonder if we can get better using like a Runge-Kutta method. That could be interesting. All right, we're in our altitude hold. There we go. And into belly flop maneuver. Okay, well, it's certainly doing something. We're gonna have to play around with the reference frames perhaps, but it's certainly doing something. Yeah, maybe, Train Man. I also want to test a different. I also we actually have a pretty good offset here, and it's not really changing things. It's staying pretty constant right now. See? Because our landing site should be here. Oh, now it's going to 0? Oh, interesting. Because we passed it? So where is it thinking that our landing site is? That is the question, chat. Never mind. All right, entering landing mode. Yeah, I'm gonna change the reference frame to the default just to see what happens if anything changes. Let's see if I'm thinking about that right. Yeah, and that's the other thing, is to print the landing site and stuff. Because you know what? I don't know if I'm doing correctly. What reference frame am I getting the latitude and longitude from? The reason why I ask is because potentially we could be getting the latitude and longitude in an inertial frame and Kerbal is rotating, right? So if Kerbal is rotating, or if we're calculating it in an inertial frame, right? You see what I'm saying? Like, it could be shifted. It's interesting. I'm not sure. That's what I was thinking as well, Train Man, unless it's something to do with our reference frame. But yeah, I would think it would also be that. Let me just make sure it isn't a velocity reference frame issue. I'm gonna take this over here, bring this down, and instead of the surface reference frame, I'm just going to delete that real quick and test it again. That was pretty solid. I mean, it was definitely maneuvering. You know what I also probably want to do is just to make sure we're not getting any errors and it's a little bit faster in response. Yeah, I can probably do that. We'll go up here and add an integral term, and then also add a derivative term, just kind of willy-nilly for now, just to see how that performs. And what did I say I wanted to do? Oh, I did do the thing. I changed the current velocity calculation. Yes, okay. But let's see, am I also going up to a shorter altitude? I am only 11,000 instead of 30. Good. Print landing site. Bummer. Thanks, twitching. Yeah, no worries. Because the landing site should be constant, right? So we definitely don't want it to move. And it should be the same as what we calculated originally as well. We can also get rid of that that print statement as well. Actually, you know what? Let me just delete. Clean up the code a little bit. There it goes. Ooh, we actually might be a little bit of an undershoot here, maybe. Oh, it's gonna be close. It's gonna be close, chat. Oh, we're just gonna be under. Wow, super close. We were 7 meters off, 8 meters off. 8 divided by 11,000, or yeah. Yeah, look at that. Great error. Not bad. 0.07% error. All right, we're in our altitude hold and into our belly flop maneuver. It says heading should be 0. So it says heading should be 0. Interesting. When it should be actually facing this way. Okay, entering landing burn. I mean, it's definitely better. Let me do the same test, but revert back to the surface velocity. I just want to like compare the same test here now as well. I mean, we're definitely within a kilometer, which is pretty awesome. Okay. Okay. Like I said, let's revert and do that one more time. So change this to surface reference frame. And if this doesn't work, I'm going to change it to surface velocity reference frame. Good enough. It's definitely doing something. I really want to figure out why it's not actually directing it specifically back to the pad. I wonder how well it can perform if we time warp. Pretty good. 3 times time warp. I wonder how that's gonna do to the air in the apoapsis. 8:16 is the day. There you go. Just changed it over for me in mountain time. Oh, are we gonna be like exact? We're gonna be 9 meters off. Being ecstatic sounds like a good key performance index indeed. All right, so what's it calculating, chat? It's calculating 74. It seems right. We'll check it, of course, once it stops, and we can kind of go back into the log. 74.1. It looked like it was right when it was there. I thought you could lock the terminal. Can you not? Clear terminal. Ah, there we go. It stopped anyways. So we're at 0. Well, we definitely... Oh, it's a very small error, though. It's a very small error. Yeah, it's a very small error. I wonder if that's why, because we're... Oops, what happened? Oh, I closed out a VS code by accident. Silly me. It's become a missile, chat. Oh no. It's become a missile. There's zero control. We hit an overflow error. We hit an overflow error, chat. Oh dear. Vehicle has no communications, no control, computer is frozen. Point towards the target, yeah. And that's how they create... Wow, it's actually stable, chat. Look at that, it's pretty stable. And now we die. Can I fly it aerodynamically? Yeah, I can. With just the body flap. Just the body flaps, chat. All right, this is This is a headphone users warning. Headphone user warning. Headphone user warning. Okay, you've been warned, chat. I have no idea how loud this is gonna be. Pull up! It's saying it's 0 for that. Which means it's actually commanding negative, right? It should actually be 270. I think it's a reference frame issue. Because it was pegged at 0. So if it's not that, I think it might be a reference frame issue. I really do. Surface velocity reference frame. What does that do? That's X. Z is the horizon and Y is the velocity. That doesn't sound quite right. Body frame of the planet. Where did I see all of those reference frames? It was under vessel, right? Like orbit reference frame or something? Is that what you're talking about, or what? We have surface velocity, surface reference frame, which is what we were trying. I feel like Y and Z for north and east should be the correct one. But it was pegged at 0, which makes me think that it was trying... Yeah. We have orbital reference frame. That seems weird. Vessel.orbit.body.orbital reference frame. Or should it just be reference frame? Vessel.reference frame? I mean, we could try them all, I suppose. All right, Train Man. Yeah, I'm almost done myself. Yeah, we can try vessel.orbit.body.orbital reference frame. Is that right? I almost feel like you need like an Earth centered inertial, an ECI frame, or maybe actually a Earth centered rotational reference frame. Do we have one of those at our disposal? Do we have like a fixed reference frame, like an inertial fixed reference frame? Maybe under celestial body, actually, right? There we go. That's a non-rotating. Rotate with the body. This actually might be the one. So what would that be? Is that vessel dot orbit dot body dot reference frame instead of orbital reference frame? Is that right? Is that what that one's called? It would be vessel dot orbit dot body dot reference frame. Yeah, okay. We'll try that one. So now it's actually pointing away. I'm pretty sure it's a reference frame issue. Just trying to figure out which one do I need. I'm terrible at reference frames because it's still -74 and we are also at -74, but it's pointing us at 57 degrees, which is in the opposite direction of what it should be, essentially. Yeah, interesting. And then it goes into landing mode. Okay. Well, we've seen this. Let's change to the other orbital reference frame. Vessel.orbit.body.reference frame. We'll see if that does what we want it to do. That should be called reference frame under celestial body. But celestial body is not something we can call. It has to be vessel.orbit.body. Yeah. Okay. Try again. Either that or the error is taking latitude and longitude, which is with respect to one reference frame, and taking a velocity, which is with respect to a different reference frame, and we're not rotating one into the other. Which means our actual difference in the angle is wrong. Well, I guess we'll find out. If this is, and regardless of whether this works, it's probably going to be my last test flight for the night. So we'll see. If not, we'll come at this on Thursday and see if we can't figure it out. Okay. We'll see if there's an error. Nope. Maybe not. Awesome. Nope. Actually, I want to see what it's commanding our roll to be. A roll. Yeah, okay. It always wants to go over here. I mean, I guess that's because we kind of shoot off into this angle, but it's consistently like right to the right of the runway, which is interesting. Well, like I said, really no complaints from me. We have achieved pretty much everything I wanted to do. We do have it under control. We just now need to make sure that it is back to the actual control point. Yeah, exactly, name. Indeed, indeed. So yeah, we'll probably come back to this on Thursday and see if we can hand that out. And I have lots of textbooks over here off camera that deals with everything from navigation and guidance, so so I might have to look into some of the references that I know deal with line of sight targeting and stuff like that, and do a little research off stream and see what we can do. But anyways, chat, bring it in nice and close. That is going to have to do it for me.